All right, let's go.
Number 7. Mercury Transit, the tiny dot that humbled astronomers for centuries. On November 13th, 2032, a small black dot will appear on the face of the sun and slowly crawl across it over several hours. That dot is Mercury, an entire planet, and from Earth, it looks like a speck of dust on a spotlight. Mercury transits happen when Mercury passes directly between Earth and the Sun, visible as a tiny dark circle moving across the solar disk. They are rare. They only happen in May or November due to the geometry of Mercury's orbit, and they happen roughly 13 to 14 times per century. The next one is November 13th, 2032. After that, May 7th, 2049. Then November 9th, 2052. You have multiple chances, but you need to plan for them. You need proper solar filters. Looking at the sun without protection during a transit will blind you just as fast as any other day. And Mercury is small enough that you genuinely need a telescope or binoculars with a solar filter to see it clearly. Here is the historical weight of what you are watching. In the 17th and 18th centuries, astronomers traveled to opposite ends of the Earth to observe Mercury and Venus transits simultaneously. By timing the transit from different locations, they could calculate the precise distance from the Earth to the Sun, the foundational measurement of the entire solar system. People risked their lives on ships crossing dangerous oceans for a chance to observe what you will be able to watch from your backyard with a $20 solar filter. The next Mercury transit is 9 years away. Put it in your calendar right now. Number 6. A naked eye supernova, the star that wasn't there yesterday. Somewhere in the Milky Way, a star is about to explode. We don't know which one, we don't know when, but statistically, based on the rate of supernovae in galaxies like ours, it should happen roughly once or twice per century. The last naked eye supernova visible from Earth was SN 1987A in the Large Magellanic Cloud, a satellite galaxy of the Milky Way. That was 1987. We are overdue. The most likely candidate in the near term is Betelgeuse, the red supergiant and the shoulder of Orion. It is already in the late stages of stellar evolution, burning through its final fuel layers. It has been dimming and brightening erratically over the past several years. In 2019, it dimmed so dramatically that astronomers called it the Great Dimming, and some speculated it was about to blow. It didn't, but it will. The question is, when? When Betelgeuse goes, it will be visible in the daytime sky for weeks, possibly months, brighter than the full moon at peak, casting shadows at night. Visible to every human being on Earth simultaneously, with no equipment required. The expanding nebula it leaves behind will be visible for centuries. Betelgeuse could explode tonight. It could explode in 100,000 years. The uncertainty window is vast, but within a human lifetime, the probability of at least one naked eye supernova somewhere in or near the Milky Way is meaningful. This is not a guaranteed event on a specific date. It is a guaranteed event on an unknown date. And every morning you wake up and Orion is still intact is both a relief and a missed spectacle. Number 5. Total solar eclipse, the most overwhelming thing you will ever see. If you have never seen a total solar eclipse, you have not seen it. Photos don't capture it. Video doesn't capture it. Descriptions don't capture it. A partial eclipse is interesting. An angular eclipse is pretty. A total solar eclipse is something that rewires your brain in real time. The moment totality hits, the moment the moon covers the last sliver of sun, the sky goes dark in the middle of the day. Not gradually, suddenly. Stars appear. The horizon glows in all directions simultaneously, a 360-degree sunset. The temperature drops several degrees in seconds. Birds stop singing. Animals behave as though night has fallen. And in the sky where the sun was, there is now a black disk surrounded by the solar atmosphere, the sun's outer atmosphere, glowing in delicate silver-white streamers visible only during totality. People cry during totality, grown adults, scientists who know exactly what is happening. They cry anyway. Total solar eclipses visible with populated areas are not that rare, but the path of totality, the narrow strip where totality is visible, is only about 160 kilometers wide. If you are outside that strip, you get a partial eclipse, beautiful but completely different. Coming total solar eclipses with paths crossing populated areas include August 12, 2026, crossing Spain and Iceland, August 2nd, 2027, crossing North Africa and the Middle East, the longest totality in decades at over 6 minutes, July 22nd, 2028, crossing Australia, March 20th, 2034, crossing West Africa and the Middle East, September 2nd, 2035, crossing China and Japan. Pick one. Travel to the path of totality, stand in it. It will be the most overwhelming astronomical experience of your life, guaranteed. Number 4. Venus Transit. Gone until 2117. This one is already done. For you, for everyone alive today, for everyone who will be born for the next 93 years. The last Venus transit, when Venus passed directly between Earth and the Sun as a visible block dot larger than Mercury, happened on June 5, 2012. The next one is December 10, 2117. Nobody alive today will see it. But here is why it matters, and why it belongs on this list. If you were alive in June 2012 and you did not watch the Venus transit, you missed the rarest predictable astronomical event a human being can observe. Venus transits happen in pairs, separated by 8 years, then a gap of over a century, then another pair. The 2004 and 2012 transits were a pair. The next pair is 2117 and 2125. The reason to include it here is this. The 2012 transit was the last time in your lifetime you could observe the same phenomenon that 18th century astronomers risked their lives to observe, the same phenomenon that allowed humanity to measure the size of the solar system for the first time. And if you watched it, even on a live stream, you saw something your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will never see. That is worth sitting with. Number 3. Close asteroid flyby. The rock that reminds us how fragile this all is. On April 13th, 2029, a Friday the 13th, the asteroid Apophis will pass so close to Earth that it will be visible to the naked eye as a moving star across the night sky. Let that land. An asteroid, 340 meters across, visible without a telescope, moving visibly across the sky over the course of the night. Apophis will come within 31,000 kilometers of Earth's surface. That is closer than our geostationary satellites, closer than the ring of satellites that run our GPS, weather forecasting, and communication systems. The asteroid will actually pass through the region of space where functioning satellites orbit. When it was first discovered in 2004, calculations gave it a 2.7% chance of hitting Earth in 2029. That sent shockwaves through the planetary defense community. Further observations ruled out the 2029 impact, and recent radar observations have now ruled out any impact for at least the next 100 years. But 31,000 kilometers is not far. On a cosmic scale, it is nothing. It is the margin between a close call and the end of civilization as we know it. On night of April 13th, 2029, Apophis will be visible over Europe, Africa, and Asia. It will move across the constellation Cancer at about the speed of a high-altitude aircraft. You will be able to watch it with your naked eye. You will be watching a mountain-sized rock that narrowly missed ending us twice. Number 2. Lunar Eclipse Tetrad. 4 blood moons in a row. A total lunar eclipse, when Earth's shadow falls completely across the moon, is one of the more accessible astronomical spectacles. Unlike a solar eclipse, you don't need to travel to a narrow path. If the moon is above your horizon during totality, you see it. And during totality, the moon turns red, deep copper orange to blood red depending on atmospheric conditions. This is because Earth's atmosphere bends sunlight around the planet, filtering out blue wavelengths and letting red ones pass through to illuminate the lunar surface. Every sunset and sunrise on Earth projected simultaneously onto the moon. A tetrad is a sequence of 4 consecutive total lunar eclipses, separated by 6 months each, no partial eclipses interrupting the sequence. They are not extremely rare, but they cluster in certain periods of history and are absent from others. The next tetrad runs from 2032 to 2033. March 1st, 2032, August 25th, 2032, February 22nd, 2033, August 17th, 2033. 4 blood moons in 18 months, all of them visible from large portions of Earth with no equipment required and no specific location needed beyond a clear sky and a view of the moon. This is the most accessible, spectacular astronomical event on this list. Anyone, anywhere with a clear sky can watch it. Number 1. Halley's Comet, the one you might only see once. Every 75 to 76 years, Halley's Comet returns to the inner solar system. It is the only short-period comet visible to the naked eye, guaranteed to return within a human lifetime. Every human who lived between antiquity and the present who paid attention to the night sky saw it at least once. Julius Caesar saw it, Genghis Khan saw it, Newton calculated its orbit. Mark Twain was born during its 1835 apparition and died during its 1910 return, a coincidence he predicted himself. The last apparition was 1986. It was disappointing. Earth's geometry relative to the comet at that return meant it never got particularly bright. Many people who tried to see it saw only a faint smudge. The next apparition is 2061. If you are watching this under the age of roughly 50, you will almost certainly be alive in 2061. Halley's Comet will return. And the geometry of the 2061 apparition is significantly more favorable than 1986. It should be much brighter, potentially spectacular. But here is the weight of what you will be seeing in 2061. The same object that appeared in the sky before the Norman conquest of England in 1066, depicted in the Bayeux Tapestry, will be back. The same comet Edmund Halley proved was returning, the same comet seen in 1531 and 1607 and 1682 will complete another lap and come back to show itself to whoever is alive to see it. And if you're lucky enough to see it in 2061, you will be one of the last people alive who also remembers the world of the early 21st century. You will be a living bridge between 2 eras. Look up in 2061. That is 7 real astronomical events you can actually witness in your lifetime. Not theory, not maybe, actual dates, actual skies, and actual moments when the universe puts on a show for anyone willing to look up. Subscribe to Cosmic Hives. See you in the next one.